Hello community, welcome to another episode of Blender Every Day. Today with a very special guest. We already had him on the show already talking about physics and hair and stuff, but now this is his own show and also talking a little bit about the experience of being a professional artist switching from other softwares to Blender, giving advice and a little bit of everything, answering questions by the way. So give it up without further ado. From Sweden, Daniel BYSTEDT.
Hi guys! Thank you so much. Hey Pablo.
Hello, how are you? Is that there claps in the background?
Good. Yeah, and you?
Yeah, good. It's been a while. We last episode we talked about a little bit of physics and more on the Blender side, but it's good to have you here for a full episode, uninterrupted.
Yes. Yeah, miss Andy though.
Yes.
And Stefan.
Yeah. It's nice to have a lot of people in, but it's also nice to have more of a conversation because I asked the community what they want to know from you, and there is already tons of comments, and I think this is the very first time where all the comments are for you and not like general Blender stuff. So this is very nice, and people know your work and they want to know more about you and more about what you think of some areas in Blender. So it's gonna be super interesting.
Yes, it will.
So before going into the questions though, I want to know a little bit more about you. You have your father.
Yeah. This is actually the voice of the tree creature here.
Ah, the tree creature. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry.
So you are in Sweden. You are working in Goodbye, Kansas.
Yeah, Goodbye Kansas. So we do VFX for film and TV and game trailers as well.
Game trailers. What are you working on at the moment? Like, can you say? But you can say what do you work in the past that people may know.
I think that the highest profile work we've done lately would be the Cyberpunk trailer.
Cyberpunk.
And we've also worked on shows like The Walking Dead, Hellboy, bunch of stuff.
Okay, so you got quite experience here. So how did you even cross how do you even see Blender in the being involved in this part of the world, the industry standard part of the world where all the big guys and using all these expensive stuff? How did you even run into Blender, and why did you consider it to move into this pipeline?
Oh yeah, it was funny though. I actually back in the day I was working with mostly Maya and ZBrush, and I paid attention to Blender because I saw some demos of cycles online on YouTube, and at the time we were working in a RenderMan clone called 3D Lights, and I just never got around to figuring it out. It felt very fiddly and a lot of setup time, and I saw cycles and looked really nice and easy to work with, so I thought oh, I gotta try this, and it was super nice and super easy. And then I just started playing around and looked what was else inside of Blender, and I was totally blown away when I tried the modeling tools.
Oh.
That was that was
without add-ons or with add-ons?
No, without add-ons.
Oh,
it was
wow.
all of the modifiers, that kind of stuff, and the just the stability of it, and being able to work non-procedurally.
Modifiers and
oh yeah, that was a big thing for me. So, and also after I got comfortable, I just felt that I worked a lot faster in there, and yeah, just branching out, trying different stuff, and especially things like clothing and rigid body and things like that. That had already, it always seemed like such a tricky thing in other applications, but suddenly that was very doable and super easy to set up. So yeah, it kind of just got me sold on the whole application.
wow. So basically it's just looking at actual reels of people showing stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and that got you into making things to even show Blender more. So now, like, it's crazy now also to think that because of you, a lot of people switch to Blender, and you switch because of other people.
Yeah, well, thanks. I don't want to take the entire credit. I think that a lot of the developers and you have done a lot of fantastic work with bringing Blender into people's lives.
Wow.
And and people like Gleb Alexandro and other people as well. Nice. And Yama, of course.
Yeah, it's all about sharing the work. So
oh yeah,
what is something that you like the most? Well, you already mentioned a little bit of what made you switch into the using Blender. It was a bit of cycles, a bit of everything. You think there is an what do you like the most, and what would you like to see like immediately change? Because there are things that I think that in the questions people ask you a little bit of this, but is there anything that you would like to see immediately? Is there anything that you see that you wouldn't change because it's part of Blender's? There are a few things, a few areas in Blender, a few features that are so which I didn't know because I don't have experience with other software, but apparently they are some kind of unique. Is there anything?
I think that's the thing. Like all different softwares are unique. It's just like, I mean, when people open, Houdini, they are like, oh, they understand from the start that it's going to be it's tricky and it's not going to be the same experience as the other software that they have been using. So they're like prepared for it. But for some reason, people don't feel the same about Blender, which is strange to me. It's the same thing with ZBrush as well. Like it's very different to other applications, especially the UI. But there's a lot of there's a huge benefit of working with ZBrush as well. And I think that Blender for me is like it's just a place where I can be really creative and do a lot of things that I can't do in other applications, because with in other applications it's too
it depends.
Takes too much time and stuff like that.
Some things take less time, I bet, but it's about the mix, the right balance.
Yeah, exactly. But you asked about like what I think should be changed or developed.
Yeah, like something that you think, because some areas you already mentioned that shouldn't be touched. It's like, okay, the Blender way is okay of doing these things. So is there anything that you think like this definitely needs to change besides hair? We're gonna talk about hair in a bit.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, me personally, I'm really excited about all the different things that is happening now, especially everything nodes, the stuff that Jacques-Luc is working on.
Yes.
Super interested in and being part for the first time of helping out with development for the hair object and bringing my experience to the table to
that would
something there.
That is really unique. We already seen how productive this is with other teams like the Chris Pencil team, so very valuable.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think that there has been there's a lot of people like on Twitter who wants to have better UV tools in Blender. It's like personally, I don't have any issues really, but people have mentioned some stuff that could be improved, and I think why not
for UV, but I don't think it's more than a few that needs to be fixed, which is I think what is probably making a lot of people mad.
Yeah, I think, I mean jag är ett samtal nu. I think that there's a lot of stuff that could be better, but I think it's actually really good as it is as well. But of course, there's stuff that could improve
as well. Okay, so we have so many questions that I think I'm gonna so we have more time to answer those. And if you have any files to share, which I heard you might have, is there anything particular that you want to share like right away, or is more related to the questions?
Well, I was looking through the questions earlier during lunchtime, and then saw people were asking for like tips and tricks,
Oh,
and they were
yes.
asking about the rig of Claire, things like that.
All right. So I think if we start now, we can tackle all of them. So let's go from the top. So people can vote these questions, and then they get to
Oh,
the top. So let's see.
ah,
If people want to add more questions, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. So the first question. So hi Daniel, I don't know if you remember me. I am the
I
guy who
do.
wrote the mesh data transfer add-on. My question is about you transitioning from Maya to Blender, and how do you deal with the lack of most of the technical features for rigging? I love Blender to the point that I haven't started learning Python API and releasing free add-ons for it to provide Maya users what is missing. But I happen to hit a few walls every time I was either suggesting something or reporting a bug. In more than one occasion, I realized that the community was just not interested in what I was proposing, even as a Maya user, those are fundamental features. I was actually thinking of learning how to code in C++ to other features by myself. Good idea. But at this point, I'm afraid that even if I commit the code, it will probably be rejected by consensus. What kind of features would be so bad, like so different that will be rejected? I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly what he is talking about. Like I bought his add-on. So basically, it's transferring vertex positions by transferring different attributes. So you can transfer vertex positions based on UV space by sampling the UV space. So, for instance, if you have a set of blend shapes for a character, and that is done on the high-res model, and then you have a low-res model, and you want to transfer the blend shapes of the high-res model to the low-res model, what is the same? The shape is sort of the same, but the UVs stay pretty much the same, except for like some vertices, and UVs disappear, of course. But then you can transfer the shape from the high-res mesh to the low-res mesh. So that's basically what he's talking about.
That sounds like something everybody would benefit from, right? It's not really like Maya
definitely
related at all.
Yeah, I think if I read between the lines, I guess perhaps he has written or suggested something, perhaps on right-click select or something, because I can understand there's a lot of Blender users who perhaps has not like worked in a production pipeline, so they are not like
they don't see how the potential.
Yeah, perhaps they don't need those type of tools or understand how they are used. But I think this would be really, really good, like transferring attributes from arbitrary data like UVs or binding from a REST post to a deformed post.
Absolutely. So yeah, but if you make them in C++, that would be even better.
Oh yeah, I really like. I think he should definitely go ahead and learn C++ and contribute to the code.
That gives it a bit more, like a lot more chances for it to get into the code.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he's to be fair, his question is if I have experienced that sort of frustration. Well, in my daily work life, I mean, I use a wide range of different tools. So whenever I've needed to transfer stuff, I've either used Maya or Houdini, and now because of this add-on, I could use Blender as well. And it's fun. I'm working on a TV show right now where I've actually used his add-on to transfer blend shapes.
Really?
So that was
in
really
production?
Good. Yeah, definitely. I was super happy when I found it. We should give it a little bump or something. Ooh,
yeah,
what's
sure
it called now again?
Sure. So is well, if you can find it, share the add-on so we can actually. Somebody else was even asking for that.
Oh yeah. see if I can find it. You can go ahead and, but I haven't really found. I mean, I can see what it's talking about. Being frustrated with perhaps a lot of users that don't understand the need
potential
for this type of
feature.
But I support it.
Yes. Next, that's the thing, and maybe that the potential users are not really looking into maybe right click select or maybe other. They just didn't happen to see the add-on, but the more you make this kind of content, especially features in C++, the more that actual professionals are going to look into that. Next question. So, hi, Adam says, I know that Daniel, that you use Blender for your personal projects, but what about your studio that produces AAA VFX and game cinematics? Do you think Blender can handle high demanding productions for a big part of the pipeline?
Well, I would say yes. I mean, first of all, we are using Blender as part, like one software at work, but we don't use it for animation and rigging. That is currently very like Maya centric, and we are switching to a lot of like Houdini and V-Ray for the look dev and lighting part of the pipeline. But in modeling and layout and concepting, there's a lot of people using Blender because it's like very accessible.
Because it's easy to make the switch in that area, whereas changing the rigging of all the characters and assets and everything is really hard. That's I think once Daniel Pepelan said, and I always remember, is like rigging is what mandates the rest of the pipeline. So whatever you do the rigging is like the rest of the pipeline. So Blender needs to get more riggers basically because some of the tools are there, some of them you may need some work, but if the animation and the rigging is done in one software, then the rest of the pipeline will follow.
Yeah, and it's also true, like that was more like perhaps a couple of years ago, but now when you have more like open source kind of like Alembic and USD and that kind of thing, where you can just transfer the mesh data, the point deforms.
Oh yeah.
You can use Alembic. Any type of application really in any part of the pipeline. However, I would say that rigging and animation will always be conjoined by the hip. So yeah. But I mean, his question was also if it's like able to use it in a big production pipeline. I would say absolutely. It has been proven to be used in a big production pipeline. We've seen like movies on Netflix, TV shows. Yeah, absolutely.
And so many that we don't know that maybe they can't even say what they actually can't really say.
That's true.
Ubisoft, for example, uses it also for their not for games, but for the animation department. That we can say. So next question, Pipeliner says, "Hey Daniel, I'm a big fan of your work. Heard that a new hair object type is planned for the future. Can you tell us what you wished for? Hair for grooming and hair simulation that can be improved in Blender. So what are your wishes? Which doesn't mean that you might get into Blender, because many reasons. It has to fit in the rest of the pipeline and rest of Blender and stuff. But what is something that you really wish that is like the minimum viable product? And the not so minimum.
Yeah, I mean, the first implementation would be making sure there's a node system as described in the task on developer.blender.org. Yes. But I would really, I think that Blender currently has a very good like grooming system. I think that the procedural generation of child hairs, as it's called in Blender, that can definitely be improved. The user interface is very like monolithic, and nodes is very much the way to go. I think that we can. I mean, I've been using now like both Yeti for Maya and Houdini, and I think there's a lot of stuff that can be. I would like to have like more type of Node Houdini-like way of working, but without having that high level of technical expertise. I would like it to be like very accessible to people.
Presets.
And yeah, presets. Yes, as you have mentioned many times, I think that would be super great. And I think that there's a lot of stuff where Blender is really ahead. And one of those things is actually the display of hair in the viewport. That is something that I have not really seen anywhere else. Maya's X-Gen is looking pretty good, but not as good as the Blender stuff, I'd say.
X-Gen.
So that's a big sell, because when you're grooming, there's a lot of like groom, and then you need to hit render, and like how does it look with shadows and ambient occlusion and all the lighting
and everything. Yes, now I just played your video of the tiger, which you can actually see the hair in real time.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? That
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, props to Clement. He is amazing. The developer of Eevee, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes, if you don't know Clement, then you should.
Yes,
it's crazy. It's yeah, he made this happen. He's now working on object motion blur for Eevee.
Oh, so yes, I've seen.
The guy deserves a statue at the Blender studio.
That's true. That was like one of my favorite stories is actually when he implemented subsurface scattering. He was kind enough to send me like a Twitter message, and like now I have it working, and I was looking like, oh, this looks great, but the textures looks blurred. What's that about? And he wrote, well, that's kind of the implementation of how it works. And I was like, but it would be fantastic if we had the option. Yeah. And then he goes silent for an hour or so, and then he's like, okay, I've done it. So it's like
after it compile.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's awesome. So here people are saying that that animation is the one that made them switch to Blender. So the tiger, it's what made them switch to Blender. That's awesome. Next question. Well, not only the tiger, but that basically everything that you see in your art station. Basically, you can find the whole like the splash screen of Blender 2.8 Alpha. It's there, or no, beta. It's there. Then Dreamcatcher, the Goodnight Glare. So many. All right. Next question by Daniela Palme. Pablo, forgive me to not asking for asking such a thing. Oh, but I was wondering what Daniel, as a Maya/Blender user, if there were elements of Maya you wish that Blender had. I use the same software as you, and all I miss from Maya is the UV tools and light linking. But that's the render engine. It's not really Maya, I think, the light linking. I use Blender at my studio, but I still am occasionally doing UVs in Maya. How about you?
I don't lay out UVs in Maya at all. Sometimes it's more we publish all of our models in through Maya, so sometimes it's just easier to not have to export it and go back, and so I sometimes move them around. But I lay out all my UVs in Blender actually. I was actually hoping to just show how I do, because it feels like there's so many many people who are frustrated with UV mapping in Blender, and I think that one of the solutions is just to work in another way than perhaps you're used to.
Can you do a small demo?
Oh yeah. I have a file prepared. Do you want me to screen share right away?
If you can screen share, yeah, that would be
nice. Sorry, let's answer his question first. Yeah. What kind of features? Well, I would say transferring vertex positions and UVs. That's one thing.
Transfer UVs.
Yeah, I mean we have
Modifier.
Transfer UVs. We can currently transfer UVs with a data transfer.
Yeah.
But we can transfer vertex positions by sampling UV space. So that's kind of what we talked about earlier with the developer in the first question.
Good point.
I
Yes.
think, yeah, and one thing would be like, I guess, what else? Uh, Perhaps I'm looking forward to, nodes with for riggers, I guess. I think like I used to work as a rigger at a studio using Maya,
A rigger in
and
Maya.
yeah, and I find that it rigging in Maya is um, it, it's great with nodes and stuff, but it can be a little like a house of cards.
Mm.
And I I really like the stuff in Blender where it's more dynamic. Like for instance, Blender's IK constraint. I mean, you can just drag a slider and decide how many bones are affected, so you can like you
See
can
the segments.
allow
Yeah.
the animator to control that in the rig, and it doesn't really
You can do
come
that
that
in Maya.
easily. Well, you can't really do it that easy. So yeah, but I guess there's a lot of people have different point of views regarding that. But that's one thing. I think that having nodes um, for rigging would be interesting. Oh, one thing that would be really good is actually GPU caching of
A play
point
blast.
data. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of like areas of Blender could be super great with just a little bit of caching, like when you have a big stack of modifiers, so that if you are having a very complicated stack and then you change the next to last modifier, it still have to calculate through all of
I love
those that
everything.
came
Yeah.
before. So if we could just cache
Up until that point.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it could work the same thing in the compositor, for instance. With blur, if you just the first time you drag the blur node, it just caches that frame that came before that node, and then it would be like super fast. That would be yeah.
Yeah. GPU.
Kind of
Well,
thing.
the plan of the compositor is to move to GPU completely.
Oh
Like
wow.
I mean, in the past maybe it was a bit more like like asking people to have like a better, more decent GPU was asking a bit much, because the rest of Blender didn't really use like a good GPU. But now
Mm.
that with you really need OpenGL 3.3 and you really need something to run Eevee, then it
Yeah.
means that everybody has at least a little bit better GPU from the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. Okay, you want me to show the
Please, yeah.
UV thing? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Here goes nothing.
Share.
Share my screen. Do you see my screen?
No, wait. Oh, yes. Wait, I click here. Yes, we can see it. Oops.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So okay, so I'm gonna use this fella here. Let me just delete the current UVs and oops, here's seam. So yeah, so what I do, I'm actually almost never inside of the UV editor. Actually, I'm like doing all the UV unwrap by adding seams in the 3D viewport. So what I do is here in UV, you can hit live unwrap. If you have a very dense model, I would say don't use this because it recalculates the UVs all the time.
Constantly. So if you have a few 100,000s, then maybe not.
Yeah. So for instance, here I would just select a loop and like mark seam, and I have a shortcut there. So just hit that button.
You added a shortcut. Yes.
Yeah. So if I want to add a shortcut, I can right click and change shortcut, Shift M. And like if I want to put a seam between here, I can't do this, right? But the nice thing is if I hover over here and press L, like it selects the entire mesh. But if I hit F9, this stuff down here, I can delimit the selection by seam, and now I can just like hide everything else with Shift H. Do do a loop there and just mark seam again, and it's gonna do a first unwrap, I guess. Cool. And then another thing I like to do, let's see, I can do here as well. Add a seam. So every time I add a seam, it recalculates the the UVs. So let's do that.
Every time. So every time you add it, so that's how you basically start adding seams and seams and seams, and you just see it progress as you make it. Yes.
Correctly. So if I decheck it, it's not gonna recalculate. So here I can add like a seam here, and another nice thing, you have this shortest path selection by selecting one edge and then holding down Control, and then it selects the shortest path. You can actually add an option to that, like instead of select, choose tag seam, like that.
Oh,
then you can just.
What is the shortcut again?
Just control click, and then you change the. So now I just have to go like that. Whoop. And now it doesn't recalculate my UV since I unchecked that, but I can make a new UV at any time. And here I can just like click that, control click this. Good. This one, and sometimes it's like, oh, where does this go? But I just like, I know I want to go somewhere over here, so I just control click one of those edges, and it just creates that nice path for me. Can do the same thing around here, and I know I want to go down here somewhere. Cool. And now if I want to like mirror the seams over to the other side, since I have a seam selected, I can press Shift G, which is select similar. It's in this menu as well.
Yeah.
And then I'll just hit seam there. So now it selects all my seams, and then I can search for mirror selection. Get that. Add those seams. Perhaps it's time to hit live unwrap. And we can do like, so here the seam would be inside the mouth. Then I could just like do that, expand the selection a bit, and then search for boundary select, like so. And here I can just deselect this, mark seam.
You're basically you added a seam inside of the.
Oh yeah. We didn't see it, but that is exactly what I did. And then just like that. And I mean, doing it like this, it's nice. I don't have to. Hit re-UV all the time. It just happens automatically. So I like that. So now we have the ears here as well. So I can just go to, and this topology for the ears are not optimal. I bought this model actually, so I take no responsibility. So now I can select. Whoops. Just select the seams, mirror selection, whee, and just mark seam. And it's going to be the same for the hands as well. I mean, but this is basically what I do.
You just unwrap the whole character in like no time.
Yeah, I mean, it goes pretty fast. I mean, and if I want to do this, it doesn't really take all that much time.
Yeah, I mean, and most of
Uh,
the humans, wow. So well, are similar. So once you have one, you know exactly where. That's also another thing that right, like you basically know where is it. So right now it looks like you're doing it so fast because you're control clicking to select the shortest path, and then your shift. You added your own shortcut to create to mark seams,
yeah. So basically
and you have
now
UV unwrapped.
it's unwrapped. And if I think it's
Brilliant.
inconvenient to do it here, we could like do it there. Oh, I got a hooray!
Yes, because it's awesome.
Okay, yeah, and I mean now it's just a matter of rotating these to my liking.
Yeah.
So sure, that will take some time.
To fit it into the
But not,
space. Yeah, there are add-ons that do that,
but yeah, and then I can just pack it. Oh no, it rotated back. Well, let's unclick rotate, and you have the margin. And gotta give some love to the UV pack master,
yes.
which I love. Does a
Wow.
great job as well. I think there's like a free version of that with not all the features. So yeah, so that's cool. But I mean, just oh, so here's interesting. Classic face issue
Ah, yeah.
where you have you know less. You can see that the squares are bigger here, so you can actually go to UV and average, no, minimize stretch, like that, and then you get sort of like a bit of skewing instead. But yeah, I think that, I mean, but there's valid things that people has written on Twitter as well, having a bit of, you know, being able to select some UVs and hitting relax, for instance, instead of like going here
and sculpting it.
Yeah, sculpt UVs. Oh yeah, but yeah,
awesome.
I like it.
Thank you. Hey,
Cool.
Thank you for the masterclass, UV masterclass.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. So okay, now let's move into the other questions. So I use okay, so it was about the light linking. That's a feature that it's coming, it's planned, it's in the roadmap for cycles. But yeah, that would be awesome to have it. I think everybody wants it. The next question by Damian says, "Hi Pablo and Daniel, happy quarantine." Daniel, may I hope to see more of your work in progress making of videos in the future? Especially I will be watching the rigging progress of Goodnight Claire. And also would be awesome if you could share some texture painting sessions.
Yeah, I would love to make some work in progress. Just to gotta find time to do some personal art. I've been really swamped lately, so as soon as I can, I actually have the rig for Claire here. I can show it real quick.
Sure. Spoiling us. Oops.
Yeah, that was the. Oh, am I doing something wrong?
No, I'm just saying myself there. Ah, there.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. I like this organized scene to do
three outliners.
Oh yeah, exactly. So the interesting thing with Claire, she was not modeled symmetrically, but rather in pose, because I was interested in just doing that. And from the start, it was just going to be like a small diorama of this character, and I am not an animator, but it's it's very appealing once you have the ability to so easily see your characters move on screen, that I kind of wanted to do just a little bit of something going on. So there's like no hand animation on her at all. Like everything is done procedurally.
With curves, modifiers.
Yeah, it's, if I go into this mode, I think so. This is the rig. So there's a lot of like IK setups, and I mean, since I know what was going to happen in this in this short movie, I could just trigger just the way she needed to, act, kind of like. So, so all of these red thingies, the bones are IK constraints, and it's just one keyframe, and then I have added for the head here, for instance, it's modifiers. So it's like a noise modifier. So you can see here that I can change the scale of the noise, and there are also some delimiters, which kind of clamps the animation curve so it doesn't hit below that, wall.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she would like pull her head down through the floor. So that's sort of my escape around animation.
It counts. It's believable. The same with the fingers, right? At some point she's typing.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think that was actually the only thing I hand animated, because I had some audio of
typewriter kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So I just matched that, and I could pull up the audio in Blender visually. So I just like so that was my least favorite part of the project, I think.
Manual work.
Yeah, exactly. And the tongue here is quite interesting as well. It's actually a this is simulated now as we're looking at it. So this is not like pre-animated or cached
at all. Yeah, maybe that's why it's a bit choppy.
Yeah. So let's see if
soft body clothes. What is it?
It's actually you can see. I'll just isolate this one. This is what's simulated. So it's this thing. So this is bound. This part is like constrained to the bone, and everything else is just jiggling.
Just wobbly.
Yeah. It's it's so satisfying to watch. and then this part is using a surface deformer, so it's binded to this low res mesh, and then I just hide the simulated, and now we're looking in Eevee. So Eevee plus real-time simulation makes it a bit slow.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a real-time part. Like once you're happy with it, you can also bake it. You could use like an MDD or something, but since it was,
yes,
you can just like while you're working, you can just hide it. Like
yeah, exactly. And then I think here's the facial control. So I did some.
That's a smiley above
it. She can't smile. She can blink though.
Okay. No, there is a smiley on top.
Gör det, Ira. Yeah, so yeah, blink, some lip thingies here as well. Yeah. Oh, look at that, she can chew. But this is kind of so mesmerizing, just seeing your assets lighted and moving in real time in the viewport. And
especially with those shaders and
yeah, exactly.
Delicious.
It's yeah, exactly.
Wow. Awesome.
Kiss her good night.
Yeah. So do you think we can is there anything else? I think that we can move on with some questions before.
Yes, let's do the questions.
So there's all of them are actually for you, so we should see them. So is the Blender no, okay, actually this one knows. Is the Blender Institute more interested in getting new users or switching users for other software? For the former, Blender needs to be easier to pick up, run, and for the latter, Blender still needs a lot of polishing and some essential functionality. Are there real plans in place for addressing this? No, it's Blender. I think Blender is interested in getting Blender users. So it's not about getting new people or getting like other software people. It's getting people that understands Blender and likes it. So Blender is made for Blender people, for Blender heads. They could come from other places. They could just be beginners starting with Blender, but I think it's about the philosophy behind behind Blender.
Yeah, and I also think like it's just, I mean, it's another software. You can combine it with, you know, whatever other software you use in production, and yeah, do certain tasks in it.
Exactly. I mean, that being said, the addition of Pixar's USD and MDD and Alembic and all of that, of course, makes it more appealing for other stuff. OpenVDB for working with other softwares like Houdini and stuff. That makes it more appealing to a production, but it's for everybody. The question, actually, the next question is this Naman from Delhi, India. I am a young graduate and I started learning Blender specifically for architecture visualization. I only knew one 3D software till last month, SketchUp. I wanted to know your thoughts about using Blender for the same, and also, is it the right path, or should I start with a more industry recognized software like 3ds Max? Some people also say that Max is dying.
Yeah, I can't answer if Max is dying. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But I mean, for me, I think that, you know, learning Blender and using it, for me, it's been a real good investment. And I recommend everyone that I know to try it and use it. Yeah,
good.
I can't shout about it.
Yeah. So thank you. Next question. I'm gonna give it a heart. Psych, Ahmad. Hi, Pablo and Daniel. I'm a big fan of your live streams and Daniel's art. Question to Daniel. I watched your glowing tiger talk and I saw you were using colors to control textures and UVs. Where and how can we learn things like this? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a, I mean, it's a good question. It's hard to remember. You kind of, when I started learning Blender, it was like, yeah, it's scattered all over the place. So you kind of like got a little bit of information here and there. And now I think there's a lot of great resources to learn. But if you're interested in the specific of the tiger, I remember I went through the node setup a bit during my Blender conference talk. So
which is available on on this YouTube channel actually.
Yes,
so
yes.
Here, so you can find it.
I can also recommend. I'm horrible. I lose names so easily. Oh my God, what's his name? He's working at the Blender Institute right now.
I can name all of them. Galti. Is it a developer or is it an artist? Sorry.
No, it's a node guy. I know
Simon.
Yeah, Simon Thomas. Yeah, exactly. I can recommend looking at his YouTube channel as well. It's a bit more advanced stuff than mine, but
it's a lot.
Stuff
it's
as well.
really crazy what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's been sharing stuff also on Blender Cloud for free. There's the shading he did for the characters of the Settlers project, which you can hear more about on the cloud.blender.org/p/settlers. Again, this project is free for everybody, and you can see the shading stuff in the characters, I think, or walkthroughs and commentary, and then there's like shading walkthrough by Simon. So you should check it out, and you can even get the blend file. All right. Next question. We even had him on the show. Maybe I can have him again.
Yeah. It's a question about sculpting. Yeah, I saw the GIF there. What this person is showing there, it's a common issue with all of.
It's like missing the masking though. It looks like masking.
Yeah, it's like in all sculpting software where you try to do something like that, and it's just a limitation. It's kind of like the same thing with I saw someone reporting a bug regarding the voxel, the remesh modifier using voxels, that if you had very big voxels, the fingers would melt together, and that's the way it works.
Part of the implementation is basically making a grid.
It's the same in Houdini. Yeah,
the same everywhere. But also, I think that this particular thing that he's having you could use exactly like here, like Roger answered, like topology auto masking is an option in the brush that you can enable to automatically mask based on the topology. So basically it's like creating a mask that doesn't get all the way here. Right now you're trying to sculpt in the whole area of the brush. That's why it's picking the other side. But if you use topology auto masking, you can limit it will like make a mask automatically based on the topology, not on the view. That's the issue. So you should check that one out. Here there is even a pic about it, the picture where you can see it in the advanced, but also is in the top bar. Next question. So we would really like to know some tricks, Daniel, maybe 4 or 5 tricks. I think you gave us a lot of tricks already. Maybe even advice on what you want to tell.
I have more if you want.
Please. I mean, you can make it a 3-hour live stream. No, not 2 hours. Actually, I have another Spanish live stream in 1 hour, but we have time. So let's share. Give it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna find the window. Where is the? Oh, we're here. Okay, sorry. Share screen. Okay, sharing my screen.
Let's see. So
let's check this one, for instance. So this is a very unfinished thing.
Looks great. I'll call it finished next.
Yeah, but one thing that I can show is like using decals. So this is basically just a this is a plane with a black and white texture controlling the
alpha.
The alpha, correct. So I can just cut out different pieces that I like from this one, and I can just Shift D, like duplicate it like that. Hit P to separate the selection. So now this is a separate piece, and I can set the origin to the geometry. So here we have that, and then I just activate snapping to surface, and you can also check align rotation to target. So then it sort of aligns to the mesh underneath. But then you see it goes through the mesh. But on this mesh, I have prepared a couple of modifiers. So if we go through these, we have, you can see it's here if I show wireframe. So first, it's subdivision, just a simple subdivision. So it just divides it up. And then we have a shrink wrap modifier. So it shrink wraps to this surface.
Adapts to the shape of it.
Yeah, and then I can offset the geometry as well. And after that, I just add a mirror modifier, pink, so we have one on the other side as well. So the nice thing, if you have a new object like this, and you want to have the same setup, you can just shift, select this one first. Let's do a couple of these, like this one, and this one, and select this one the last, so it's like bright orange and active. Then you can hit Control L, make links. You can actually, and now you might say, oh, I can't remember those hotkeys. Then you just like, oh, make links, and
yeah, and even if you search for modifiers, it should even show up there.
So now you see like, oh, it's an object make links. Cool. So I did object make links. I can't. It's like I use so much shortcut that I don't find myself in the
menus. Neither I. But at least we can know now with the new search in Kubernetes.
Yeah, exactly. So now I just make links and then modifiers. So what it basically does is copy the modifiers from the active object to the selected objects. So now I can move this around, and it just aligns to the mesh. And if you're working in a like game environment with game assets, you could either like export these as decals, or you could bake these textures into like a low resolution version of this helmet.
So cool.
Another thing I really love in Blender is like the ease of creating tubes. I mean, in other softwares, it's like this horrible workflow.
For making curves with the bevel.
Yeah, it's just like having you know, like a chord like this. So I'm just gonna show it for people who might be coming from other software. So here's just a just normal curve, and if you go into what would be like the shape node for Maya people, you just go down to the geometry and you just hit depth, and now you have thickness, and you can just extrude stuff like this.
Question: would it be better if it had thickness, a little bit of thickness by default? Would you say it's gonna save you minutes of your life?
It's good for, not really. I mean, if I want a new curve, I will just like duplicate something from the original curve.
Okay.
I think just, and I can also like,
or maybe it could be an
something.
operator. Yeah, actually with the draw.
Yeah, things like that. It's not something I've been spending a lot of
Just
waking
asking
nights
for
thinking
this,
about. And also like another thing I love, which is if we, instead of a depth, we go to extrude and then depth, we get like something like this, which if you are using I don't know, like creating
like pasta.
yeah,
Tagliatelle.
or shoelaces, for instance.
Yeah, that too. I was just thinking of food.
So exactly. So up here you have radius, for instance, and there's shortcuts for that as well. I think it's like Shift S, no, Alt S, and you also have tilt as well, like twist,
like twisted,
like
yes.
Yeah, and the super nice thing as well is if we have a, let me just do a cube here real quick, and let's move these to a, just gonna create a new scene so we can just see them real quick, like that. So we have the this is one of my favorites, creating an array like this. So you basically have a lot of duplicated cubes,
Yeah.
and then merge them, and then take the curve, and I'm gonna remove the depth and the remove depth, remove the extrude, and then I'm gonna say like, okay, instead of having a fixed count, do as many as this curve is long. And then we're going to add another modifier, which is
curve. There in the third column.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, so deform. Now I have built this along the x-axis, right? So that's the correct deformation axis. I'm just going to pick this curve. And now it looks weird. It's probably because of applied scale or something.
Oh, the origin. I think it needs to be at the origin, like.
Oh yeah, that's true. Woo! That
it's a bit
curve
too thick
needs
now,
to
yes.
be bigger so it doesn't look weird. Yeah. So when that is properly set up, you have a mesh that is deforming to that curve. And the nice thing is you can still go and like add details to it, like that. Like do whoops. Like a bevel.
You could make a rope with the rope already made. You could make the little individuals, or in this kind of the sideboard.
So that's, it's just it's wonderful. Very cool.
Super nice. Do you have more tips when I move into the questions?
I think I have. Let's see.
Do you even have time?
Yeah, yeah. You'll have to stop me, I guess.
Ah,
I
no,
think,
the sky is the
yeah,
limit.
yeah, cool. Another thing is, I mean, the shading for this robot here, it doesn't have any UVs at all, actually. It's just a rather simple shading system. So what I've done here is I just have this. Oh, go to vertex paint. You can see here that I have painted the vertices with some different colors,
Yeah.
and I use the vertex paint. I could paint this as a texture, but then it would be UV dependent.
Yeah, and also it resolution dependent, and if
Yeah,
you change
exactly.
the mesh.
So and here I can control shift different parts of the mesh. So here I see the specific vertex color attributes, and then I just separate out the red channel there and mix this shader here with this shader here, and it looks like this. That's cool. And so the power of this is that I don't have to finish a model, bring it over to Substance, paint it, bring it back, present it in yada yada way. I can just be concepting stuff, changing the colors as I go while I'm still sculpting on this. I mean, I could. That's what really gets me
The
going.
power of just being in one app.
Yeah, exactly. It saves a lot of time. So where was I? Yeah. So I mean, I could change the color.
So you're
Something like
basically making like an RGB mask kind of a thing where you give it, yeah, you give it a color and you just use that color. You pick that color for
yeah,
a mask.
yeah. So if you are working with a designer or an art director that want to have a specific color, that it's just no problem at all, and it's so much fun to work this sort of way where you just get to be creative instead of
because
wrangling data all over the place.
Now you could just basically go into vertex paint mode while you're in Eevee and paint the other shader, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So I could actually pick the color. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, you need to see the flat.
I need to.
You need to see solid in there.
Yeah, exactly. So because when I click, it picks the final color on the
of the viewport
screen. Yeah. So if here, okay. So now I go into vertex paint, and I have that color. I can just start painting here.
Nice. Could you zoom in?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're basically just painting other shaders.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And I can, it's pretty fast to just paint masks like this and evolve the shading with scratches and stuff as I go. But just getting the basics there pretty early is really powerful. And then this is another one of my favorites. Like you have the ambient occlusion node that works in Eevee. So that means that whenever I change the model, if I extrude or I sculpt, the ambient occlusion updates as it goes, and then I can contrast it and mix it with this noise texture. And yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so now the noise texture is a bit more apparent, I think. And then I can use this ambient occlusion to mix in this shader, which is more like just a plain dirt. So
more matte, less glossy, and then you can mix this too, and then you can use that as like a mix layer.
Yeah, so now you see it gets really dirty. Very cool.
So good.
Yeah, So that's another trick, I guess.
Do you have another one?
I do.
Whoa, okay.
You should see me at work. It's like
Please. The tips and tricks. I'm gonna change the name of this
yeah.
stream.
Oh, this is just another thing. Like when you're doing a character and you are like adding little details like this. So here I have a thing. I could either like shift duplicate it, shift D, and then it's a new copy of the same object. But how do I? But if I choose Alt D, and now I'm aligning to the rotation of the underlying surface, I can like say, I don't like this. I don't like this detail. I wish I had another detail, kind of like perhaps this one up here. So just select this, perhaps that one as well, and select this one, and then I hit Control L and say, replace the polygon data with my selected object. Kadung.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's like really nice.
You're basically changing. So so it keeps what you were moving and transforming is the object. So it keeps the transform of the object, rotation, location, scale. Even they could have different scale, different anything. Yeah, but you're just changing the data inside the mesh data blocks. Yes. We call them in Blender.
Exactly. Yes. And I can still like go in and change certain part of this, like I don't know, extrude this or something, and then it just updates to all of these objects that are connected to that data.
Nice. And you can also make it local.
Yeah. So it's so non-destructive, and at the same time, it's not forcing me into this complicated workspace where I need to go into some node tree and find this shape and that kind of thing. I can just be creating without having to worry all that much about stuff. I mean, they don't even need to be properly modeled. I could have like just something that looks kind of like this, and then I can refine it at the end of my project.
What is crazier is that they are different objects, and modifiers affect at an object level. So you could have the same mesh, but with different bevel or solidify modifiers that completely change the shape, the final shape, and the custom profile of the bevel curve, of the bevel.
Oh yeah,
geometry, but still with the same mesh. So it's a weird concept, but it's super powerful.
Yeah, and I especially love now that we have collections as well. So if I just hit M here and I choose like new collection, we'll call this head, and we have art director that comes like, hey, wouldn't it be nice like if it was like a conjoined twin kind of mech fella, and you see here that now I have another head up here.
Yeah.
And I can, the thing is like when you create a new, what was I saying? A new collection, the origin of that collection is always the center of the world, Origo. But I can say like, if I pick this, go into its object mode, I can see like, oh, it belongs to the head collection. Then I can put my cursor here and just say like, oh, set offset from cursor, and then I know that the center should be 0 in X, and now it rests nicely on that locator. So now I can put the head on the head, and the head and the head on the head. No, this is turning into one of those 1 minute videos.
It's brilliant. I think you should save this project. The previous one is so much better.
Yeah, and whenever I update something on this one, it updates on the oh my god, we're
other
going
collections.
Yeah, so that's really cool, I think.
Awesome. More tips or more questions?
Let's go to questions.
Let's see here. So Next question. So, hi everyone. Danielle, what first inspired you? What first inspired you to get into 3D? Was your greatest achievement in your 3D careers? And which of your works was the most challenging? And which one are you most proud of? So it's multiple questions. So the first one, what first inspired you to get into 3D?
Yeah, I was actually working at a movie theater, and I was just like, just got the idea that I should try 3D or something.
At a movie theater.
And I actually started with 3ds Max, and I was rubbish, of course. And then I started using like Maya because there were so many tutorials online, and then I found that there was like you could apply to this program that in Stockholm where you could learn 3D as well. So that was Nackademin, and a lot of the people I work with has actually come from the same class as mine. So that's really fun.
Oh, nice. What's your greatest achievement in your 3D career?
I think the greatest achievement is always working with great colleagues and producing projects together, because I mean it's such a great feeling when you do a character or create a model, and the next person takes it and sprinkle their magic on top of that, like riggers do it, and then you have character effects which just do muscles and simulations and stuff and animation, and everyone contributes to what you started with, and then it looks so much better in the end.
Yeah.
I think that's really rewarding for me.
And the next,
and also I must say, like also reaching out to you guys and having you like my work in some way being helpful for you for PR content.
Many ways. Inspiring people to switch to Blender, inspiring developers to improve their tools, like Eevee, for example. Inspiring everything, inspiring you, inspiring other artists. Testing the tools, because you were making those like tests with Eevee when it wasn't even supposed to be used in that way. I see, where is the character? Well, yeah, the Wanderer, for example, but then you had another one, the Tree Creature.
Oh yeah, that was exactly when I was waiting for armatures to being implemented and working in 2.8, because it was such a long time where it was just like you could only have static models and things like that. So I knew I had to, even though I'm not an animator, I had to try to do some kind of movement.
This Tree Creature video, we had it on display on SIGGRAPH 2 years ago, and people were like, when you show the render and then suddenly you start moving the bones and the glass, the magnifying glass, that was insane. So
yeah, I thought it was great. My pipeline colleagues was there at SIGGRAPH, and they took pictures and sent it to the Rocket Chat at work, so it was fun.
It's so good. Like when we were showing it, people were freaking out. Many of these files that we were talking about, actually, they are available on blender.org/download. You can find the demo files, and you're gonna find here like the monster for UDIM, testing UDIM, Tree Creature, the one we were talking about now, and the one that are all available here on blender.org. Which of your works was the most technically challenging?
That's a good question. I mean, the stuff we do at work is always the most challenging in terms of like all the artists working. But for my personal projects, I think that the tiger was kind of most. I think perhaps the latest one, where I tried to do so many shots.
Sharing a dream.
Yeah, exactly. Sharing a dream.
Wow. Yeah. Next, which one are you the proudest? Is that the one?
Good question. I think that I really like the final look of the tiger, but the thing is, like, I'm never satisfied with the stuff that I do. I always see the stuff that can be improved as well. So I don't know. It's gonna be a lifelong struggle to be satisfied with the things that you do, I guess.
Artist stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we are like 20 minutes past the time. Let's do five more questions. Okay. Okay, Rob says, "Hi guys, and thanks for the Today series during these quarantine times. First of all, I'm in awe of Daniel's work and often show it to people to stop the discussions about Blender not being able to do X. I have a question for Daniel regarding project management. With Maya and other 3D applications like Houdini or Soft Image, rest in peace, project and plugin management is very easy to set up due to project scene manager and extensive environment variables. Still, Blender field is lacking in this area. Yes, I still find it hard to set up similar workflows due to this. I would like to know how Daniel and the studio worked around this."
I think this person should be directed to Andy's talk. That he did on the latest Blender conference. For me, it's I don't do anything really special. I think because I did like a little recap for Sharing a Dream, where I show sort of the workflow that I do, and one of those was using like when I have multiple scenes and sharing the settings for rendering between those scenes and updating as well. I think that could be helpful for this person.
Yep. Definitely watch the production pipeline of Spring, where Andy shares how we use open source for everything and how we made all the open movie projects at the studio. But again, the asset manager is gonna ace a lot of that, and we hope to introduce together with the asset manager like a project manager kind of a thing, where you can set up a project, a name, a folder structure, and basically have everything in one. Basically manage all of that. Next question. Actually, we can start from the bottom to go to the first ones. Hello, Daniel. Can you please detail the future of motion graphics in Blender as compared to CIF, Cinema 4D, and Houdini? Actually, it will take at least 2-3 years to learn software with scripting part, and so I have carefully choose the software before stepping in. No.
Yeah. I don't think I can give a very good answer to this, other than that, you know, Chuck Luke is working on everything nodes, and I have great confidence in him. I mean, I had some questions for him regarding like arbitrary data attributes on like vertices and stuff, and he already had the answer for all of my questions, so I was like blown away. And I think that, you know, Blender is a good investment either way. I think that Cinema 4D looks really good as well, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know. And I think, I mean, Houdini is really good as well, but you need to be ready for focus a lot on the technical stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I think that Blender is a really good like middle road, and it's very competent.
Yes, and also it says like it will take at least 2-3 years to learn a software, so I have to carefully choose a software. No, just try them all. At the end of the day, they're all like polygons and nodes and stuff. So
yeah, I think the first software you learn, sure, it takes a bit, but once you learn one software, it's easier to learn the next one.
All the other ones, yes.
Yeah.
The next question, number 3. So it's, hi Daniel, your works are really amazing. Some questions for you. Most of your works are about hard surface. What are your most wanted features they would like to see implemented in Blender for hard surface?
I would love a circular array.
Yeah.
And it's very possible to set up with the current system. It's just, you know, it would be so nice to just have it as a
Just a
little
toggle, yeah.
switch. Also, I think that separating, because now we have vertex groups, right?
Yes, we do.
And we have edge weight for bevels, but it would be super nice to have like multiple sets of edge groups, so that
Yep.
you could set separate type of you know, amount of bevels. So like you can do that currently, but it would be nice to, yes, I think
Edge
that
groups.
yeah, I think that we should have groups for all type of
Yeah,
like
elements like faces.
faces, edges, vertices, you name it. And yeah, but I think that I haven't thought it through really. What should be a great contribution to hard surface modeling? But once, yeah, and there's a lot of like add-ons that does fantastic jobs with hard surface as well. But I look
And no
forward to
add-ons as
everything
well.
else.
If you look at the training by Gleb Alexandrov and Andy Borov on Creative
Yeah.
Shrimp, they purposely made a training without add-ons about hard surface modeling. Next question is your as part of the saying, your texturing workflow. Does your texturing workflow involve other 3D packages?
Sorry.
It's okay.
What was the question?
If your texturing workflow involved other 3D packages.
Yeah, I mean, at work we mainly use Substance Painter, but you know, Substance Painter can't paint over UDIMs like Blender can do now. So I mean, I like to paint in Blender as well. So for instance, like I've been doing like digidoubles for Walking Dead that was textured in Blender, like combined with the Krita.
So there is Krita and Blender in The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Awesome. And can you give us some advice to be a good mecha designer?
Yeah, definitely. Look at other people's work and then copy as much as you can, and copy other people's work just randomly until you sort of grow a visual library of your own. I mean, if you copy someone else's works and put it on your ArtStation, you should definitely credit them.
Right, please, yeah.
But it's a good way of, you know, getting started. And for me as well, when it comes to designing, pen and paper has always been the best, because there's nothing you work as fast with as pen and paper, and it's very convenient.
Next question, number 2. Hi, Daniel. Love your work. Interesting about your thoughts on new hair system. Have you seen Houdini grooming tools and Groom Bear?
Yes, I have. We use them at work. So yeah, that's a nice thing about. I mean, some people say that Blender is not. Some people say that Blender is not, plays nice with other software and so on. But the thing is, like, it's grooming in Blender can just be exported as an Alembic, put into Houdini, and shoved straight into the grooming system there, and it works. Yeah. So I'd say it's very compatible with other softwares. Yes. And yeah.
And the last question: how do you learn the software? How do you start learning the software? And after just learning, how do you take yourself to the next level? So I think it's more broad. It's like, how do you learn the software, which is similar to what we said basically about copying others, which is practice, because it's not just copying by copying. Is at the end of the day, it's practice. but if you copy something, you have a goal. So you know, it's like, okay, I need to achieve this texture. How do I do it? It's like an assignment that you get to give yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like that's the hardest thing is to train your eye. Train your eye to replicate an image or an actual model in the real world.
Absolutely, that's how I started too. Like when drawing, I was drawing cartoons that I knew, like the Bugs Bunny and like Coyote and things that I know, because you know them. So it's really something that you like. You can tell if it's good or not. You're basically training your eye.
Yeah.
That was the last question. So I think we managed to fill in 1.5 hours. So people will be like, should I watch a movie or should I watch a live stream?
I'm sorry.
You're gonna get you're gonna get a lot more out of this live stream for sure. It's full of advices, tips. You're even out like UV unwrapped a whole character pretty much.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was worth it. I'll share it again and re-share it. And when people say that the UV tools are not there yet, I'm gonna say yes, but you can still do if you follow Daniel's.
Yeah, they can be improved, but
they can of course, definitely they can be improved. They are very nobody has touched the UV tools in many years, so of course they are a bit behind. But there are ways of how to get at least the basics going, and you showed it really well, like even more beyond the basics, and how just maybe a little improving the workflow a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great. Sorry to your kids that we're stealing you for 1.5 hours. We understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope that didn't leak too much into the mic.
No, it's that, I mean, they want their dad, yeah. So we stole you for like 1.5 hours. So I hope you had fun with this.
Yeah, definitely. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and Please. Continue your fantastic work, Pablo.
Thank you. It's this is last week we had Blender Today 100. To this week we have 101 with more features and new stuff. But also trying to invite more people. Maybe we can even get some more people like that use Blender that and you can tell them just to get the other side, like to be starting with Blender by being an experienced artist, like what or even how. Anyway, thank you once again.
Thank you.
I will blast the ear holes with music in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, community. Thank you, Daniel. I will see you guys in the next video, whenever that is. Bye bye.